Hello again, and welcome to another exciting episode of CultureCast. CultureCast is a podcast brought to you by Hype Magazine. In this podcast, we're going to be shining a light on influential figures, particularly in the youth culture. Don't forget to head over to the bell and just click on it, just so you are the first one to see when we have dropped. And of course, I am your host. I go by the name of Nomi the Boss Chick, and today I am yet with another content creator. She is super special. When I met her, I was like, you are tall. And yeah, I'm super excited to have this conversation. I'm going to allow her to introduce herself. Without wasting any more time, let us get straight into it. Hi, Mama.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm so good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. Firstly, you are tall, and I'm happy because I'm just like, it's so rare finding tall girls. And the thing is, when I watch your videos on TikTok, you look short.
Oh, you watch my videos?
I do. You look short. I'm just like, okay. So in my head too, I was like, okay, she's probably short. And I came in, and you're this tall, beautiful girl. I was just like, Amandla.
Thank you, Tall Girl Revolution.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank
For
you
people
for
that don't know who Amahle is, how would you introduce yourself?
Wow, okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Amahle Gebane. I think the first thing that comes to mind is that I'm Xhosa. And I think being Xhosa and also being Sotho, like, it really shapes who I am because I think learning about my culture, learning about where I come from.
Yeah.
And there's that one song by Uthandiswa Mazwai where she says, don't forget where you come from.
Yes.
Ningazilibala nizalwe
Nizalwe
ngobani.
ngobani,
And I
yeah.
think that's something that I have navigated, like moving from country to country, understanding who I am, keeping my accent, trying to learn from other people. I think
Yeah.
that's a very important thing. Like knowing where you come from is very important in like knowing where I'm going.
Absolutely.
But I'm also a very bubbly person.
Yeah.
I'm very talkative. I love like cartoons and things like that. People think I'm a serious person. Like when people meet me, they'll be trying to speak the most outrageous English and we're speaking about all these political topics. I'm like, hold on, let's talk about the fact that Justin Bieber's getting his first child. Like, I'm just I'm a child at heart. And I think the reason why I got into politics is because I want other children to have the childhood that I had.
Yeah.
And my childhood was very much paused by, politics and being in racist spaces and stuff.
Yeah.
But basically, I'm a child at heart, and I love childhood. I love, like, exuding that and exuding, love and happiness into the world.
So firstly, I like you because I feel like we have so
Thank
much
you.
in common. Firstly, being tall girls.
Yes.
Secondly, being Xhosa. So I'm Xhosa and Tswana, but most dominantly as Setswana because I was born and raised in Rustenburg. So I
Northwest. Yes, girl.
So I think you're the most amazing human being I've met today. Very bubbly. I will definitely attest to that. So welcome once again. To get into it, right? I want to know about your childhood.
Okay.
Where Amahle is from, how you grew up, all the nitty-gritties.
Okay, so I was born in Msotra. I actually just found out that Soweto was called Msotra like 2
that's
weeks
Msotra.
ago.
Msotra.
Because that song is like Dala Msotra.
Sotra,
And I was like, my mom was like, do you know what you're singing? And I was like, no. And she's like, Msotra ki Soweto Amahle. And I was like, well, this is because I moved to the suburbs when I was like 3 or 4 or something. But I was born in Baragwanath Chris Hani Hospital. It's so funny because sometimes when I see TikTok comments, people will be like, ugh, these Park Lane kids, these Mopark kids. That child ward knows me. That maternity ward, Gobara, knows my name.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yes, I was born in Soweto. I lived in Protea North for like the first 3-4 years of my life. Then I moved to the north, which, like, it was a very healthy dynamic in terms of, like, being at creche in the south.
Yeah.
And then, like, now when I go to primary school, now that I have to learn English and stuff, I still have that foundation and that conditioning of being from, Soweto and being around black people.
Yeah.
I really appreciate the family that I had. Like, most of my family, when I was living in Soweto, they actually lived in the UK.
Okay.
So it was just me and my mom just thugging it out
Nice,
together.
of course.
And then when they came back from the UK, that's when my mom was like, okay, let's just move to the north and we'll be fine here together. And it's just been me and her, man. Like, every time I'm in other places, I always think of my mom. I always think of, like, she should be enjoying this with me because she built me up to be the person that I am today. Even the people that know her, like, I'm a spitting image of her. And I'm really, really grateful for the childhood she curated for me to the best of her capacity and her abilities. And then, so I went to primary school in the north, and then I was also in high school in the north. But then, you know, with the economy and everything, sometimes I had to move back to Soweto because, guys, living in the north needs money.
Yeah.
Living in the north needs, it needs a certain echelon of society that sometimes a single mother, you know, cannot always maintain.
Absolutely.
And I think sometimes that's humbling, for a lack of a better word, of having to move back to Protea, having to move back to Soweto. Like, that really helped me code switch between different people. That's why I think when I'm in the north, I can fit in very well with people that grew up in the north.
Yeah.
And then when I'm in Soweto, like, I can also feel like I'm from Soweto without people being like, oh, you're trying to fit in too much, Wabon. And my childhood was just about food. We went to church a lot. I actually went to church a lot because that was the one space where I felt like there were a lot of black people.
Yeah.
Now, right now, you know, I am very critical of the church as an institution. I won't get into that. But no. But like, church was a sanctuary for me because of like the black space that it was. Like, I went to Grace Bible Church in Pimville, and I really appreciated like the childhood, the friends that I still have from there. And I also went to a lot of conferences. I did a lot of reading, watching movies. Me and my brother would memorize this movie called Aquila and the Bee.
Of course.
That's why my vocabulary is so bombastic, because like, me and my brother, we started this glossary. We're like, okay, every word that Aquila says, because it was about a spelling bee and stuff. We're like, okay, cool, we're going to learn this word, we're going to learn this word. And my mom also taught us how to use the thesaurus and the dictionary and stuff. So our childhood was very unconventional, but it was also conventional in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of diversity, a lot of happiness, a lot of struggle, because we're black. And we were raised by a single mother. And yeah, really, really grateful for the childhood I had.
Sure, that is beautiful, right?
Thank you.
You're 21.
20.
20 now.
Yes, I'm turning 21.
You're turning 21.
In August.
And you are so well-spoken, and I feel like you have so much knowledge, right? What do you think influenced you to grow up quickly? Or how they would say, you know, what do you think influenced that?
You know, in other aspects of my life, I'm still very immature.
Absolutely.
And I think, yes, in terms of like politics and like academic life, I did mature fast because I think being in white spaces in South Africa, I'd always have to prove myself. Like, I'd always have to go above and beyond to show people that I'm intelligent and to show people that I deserve to be in that space. And I no longer have that feeling of having to prove myself. I no longer, like, why should I prove myself? Like, Nomi Gebane, like, there's no way. Like, who are you? You don't even, your name is Susie. Like, your name doesn't even have a meaning. And I'm here proving myself to you? No. But I think growing up in a space where I always had to prove myself, where I forced myself to have this hunger for knowledge, I think that forced me to mature very fast. But also my parents, like, my dad would make me like Google the most random people. He'd be like, oh, do you know who Kofi Annan is? And I'm like, who is that? Like, can I just watch the Powerpuff Girls? I just want to watch the Powerpuff Girls beat up Mojo Jojo one more time. And he'd be like, no, who's Kofi Annan? Now I have to Google Kofi Annan, and he was the first African Secretary General of the UN. Now I have to Google what the UN is, because now I need to understand what institution it is, like what it means. And then with all that, you have to learn all this language and stuff. And I think even with my mom, I was learning about Martinique at school, because they would assign us different like islands and countries to learn about for show and tell. And then she was like, oh, Martinique, that's where Frantz Fanon is from. Do you know Frantz Fanon? I'm like, no. And then I had to Google that, and I'm like 10 Googling this man. Anyway, my family, I think for me, in terms of activism and like politics, it was just something people always assigned me to. Does that make sense? Like, it was like with my brother, sports, with my other siblings, it's like art and, you know, dancing. But for me, it was always, okay, I don't know why, but let's talk about politics with Amahle. Let's hear what she has to say. And being in a home or being in spaces where a child's curiosity is nurtured, best thing I ever had.
Right.
Like, I was not kundezelad. I was never told, maybe sometimes at 2 a.m. when it's like I'm babbling on, yes, keep quiet.
Shut
Go,
up.
you know, but like my curiosity, asking questions, always welcomed in the house. And now going out into the world and seeing that was not welcomed, like that
Yeah.
was a whole other board game. So I think relative to my other peers, it felt like I matured fast, but it's just because my family just let me be.
Right.
Yeah.
I like that. Shout out, family.
Love you guys. Yeah.
So obviously you're 20 and this is your varsity years. You're in the US.
Yo.
And that's where you are schooling. You're in Boston.
Yeah, I'm in Boston.
How did that come about?
So I went to this high school, my second high school. It's called the African Leadership Academy. And most of the people from the African Leadership Academy go to schools outside of South Africa because most of the people there are international students. And I initially thought, I was like, I am going to get the edge. I am going to, what is Wits? I'm going to Wits. And they're like, no, no, you need to explore. You know, South Africans like to stay in South Africa. You need to see other places. And I was like, okay, cool. So I applied to the university that I'm at now. So I'm at 2 universities.
Okay.
So I'm at this college called Wellesley College, which is historically women's college in South Africa.
Okay.
I mean, not in South Africa, in the US.
Yeah.
And then I have a cross-registration program with MIT, which is the Massachusetts Institute of Technology.
Okay.
Right, so I do my courses at both places. And so basically I applied and I was like, okay, let's see if I get in. Then I got financial aid because with financial aid in like prestigious American universities, you don't apply for a scholarship, you just send them your parents' financial details,
Okay.
and then they'll be like, oh, okay, based off of your parents' financial details, this is how much we think you can pay.
Okay.
And at the time, my mom had a job, you know, but so like, you know, like we pay a little bit as compared to my full school fees. My full school fees are like 2 million rand. My mom is definitely not paying 2 million rand, which is crazy. And yeah, that's how it came about. And it's a very good education because I just decided on my major now, and I'm going into 3rd year. So I've had the opportunity to explore like geology, art history, Africana studies, not Africana like the white people, like African, like it's like African studies with the diaspora is called Africana studies, that side. And like, yeah, settled on psychology and my own designed major, which is in Black history, well, it was Black liberation and identity politics, which is like art, politics, and African studies.
Nice.
Yeah.
So then why are you split between the two? Like, are you studying both those things from the different universities, or how does it work?
So I just pick whatever course I want to do at either of the universities.
Okay.
So because I'm mainly at Wellesley and we take 4 courses, I'll take 3 courses at Wellesley in a semester and then 1 course at MIT. Like, but I think in South Africa people call them modules. I don't know, the way my sister says it, like she says our courses are like modules this side. So yeah, like 3 courses and then at Wellesley and then 1 at MIT. Then I can do research and I can work with people at both universities. So like it's just the perks of having a student ID at both of these colleges.
And how's the workload? How are you finding yourself handling that?
I'm just saying, if you see my mouth like going I'm shivering. It's so cold. I didn't anticipate that it would be this cold in SA. But anyway, the workload, I think, okay, this year, 2nd year was difficult.
Of course.
I was crying. I was going. My mom, I had a stats class that I just got my grades back for, like, I think this morning. Oh my word, I do not like maths at all.
Yeah,
I have not done maths.
I don't think any of us do.
And my sister's studying some mathematics. No, she's doing econ, so she has math in her econ thing. And like, I was crying to her every day, calling her, like, I don't know how you do this. But the workload is just about how you manage it. And because I'm Soma, a full-time content creator and a full-time student and a part-time student worker, the workload was crazy. But I got my 8 hours of sleep. That's one thing, because I'm beautiful and I need to
prioritize on that. So I'm glad you get that.
When I need my sleep. I need my sleep. So sleep is very essential to me. But like the work-life balance is something I'm still working on.
Yeah.
With this summer break that I have, that is now winter break because I'm in the southern hemisphere. I'm trying to see how I can manage that better. But at the end of the day, my grades are fine. You know,
and
GPA is looking good.
Yeah.
But yeah, as long as the African parents are happy, I'm happy.
And that's all that matters.
Yeah.
So with that said then, how has your experience been so far in the US? You know, like some cultural shock. Yeah, how has that been for you?
One of my first culture shocks was that my American DC, like Americans don't
They don't
greet.
greet, ne?
Like, I remember I was at Dunkin' Donuts in Rhode Island. Rhode Island is the state next to Massachusetts, I think. And I greeted the lady. I was like, "Hi, how are you?" And she was like she saw at me, like she fully berated me for staring at her. She's like, "Oh, are you patronizing me because you think I'm below you? You think like now you want to be curious about my?" I was like,
Johnny, I'm just greeting.
I don't know, like, and I was just like, okay, no. But then other experiences, it just depends on who you meet. I think in terms of like politics, like yes, Americans have a lot to learn about other places in the world, and I'm not very patient. I was patient when I first got there because people were like, "Oh, you're African, you know, you need to be open to the fact that their education system is not good." But the thing is, they approached me with that thing, like with infantilizing themselves, thinking that I'm going to be understanding, and then that allows people to be very offensive in their questions. And I think when you set the boundary of like, you can't approach me that way, you can't talk to me like that, people start to have some sense when they talk to you. Then like they know that okay, this is how this girl wants to be addressed. This is how this person wants to be addressed. But other than that, like I've made some American friends who understand my experiences, who have taken time to learn about my experiences outside of me explaining things to them, which was really, really cool, which I really appreciate. Other culture shocks are like the way that we write. Like in South Africa, we write like British people.
Yes.
My professors always say we write like I write like a British person. Then when I have to write for like American writing, it'll be like, you need to fix this. You're writing in passive voice.
I need you.
Yeah,
like,
like
you in favorite.
you know, like, and I'm like, and I'm a very stubborn person. Like, this is the way I was taught in South Africa, and they'll be like, well, are you in South Africa? But one thing I really appreciate about universities in the US is that like my professors get to know me, and we're comrades. We're like,
that's nice.
Like that's really, really nice. Like even now I was emailing some of them saying thank you for the semester, and one of my professors like, oh, sorry if the readings were too elementary, because like a lot of the readings we did at in uni that we do in uni we already did in high school. Like I was like, oh, we learned this in South African high school. How did you guys not learn that in high school? And they'll be like, oh, but anyway, So, there's a lot of culture shocks, but there's also a lot of things where I was just like, this is just the whole other country. Let me just accept. But one of the other culture shocks is people expecting me to speak in an American accent when I talk to them, because they'll be like, oh, you have to. Nah, I'm not doing that. Have you heard how South Africans sound when they're speaking with the American accent? They do not sound good. We do not sound good forcing an American accent. So I'm fine with my South African accent.
So with that being said, do you think that makes you appreciate being South African more, being in like a foreign country?
Oh, of course.
What do you mean people get offended when you greet them? And I feel like it's such a South African thing. Like we do it on a daily and it's so normal. So I'm guessing, do you get times where you're just like, oh, I'm homesick, I want to go back home?
That's why I'm home twice a year. No, it really made me appreciate being South African, like in the smallest things, man. Like saying nah. Like you can't say nah there because they're like, what does nah mean? And I'm like, nah, like, you're always like sharp. Like, oh, Khatliso, da 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 da. My other name's Khatliso. They were like, oh, Khatliso, da da da. Oh, I'm coming to your room just now. And I'll be like, sharp. And they're like, what is that? Like, what does that mean? I'm like, sharp means like, okay. I think one of the other times when I caused confusion with one of my American friends is when I said, oh, I'm coming to your room now. And she was like prepared for me to be there immediately. And she was like, I think 2 hours later, she was like, where are you? You said you were coming now. I said,
it's not like that.
Not like that. But I really do appreciate being South African because now there's certain things that like distinguish me from other people. There's other things that people identify in me that they'll be like, oh, you said that just like Tyler, or you said that just like Uncle Waffles. Or when Uncle Waffles is always in Boston. Now people will be like, oh, will be gifting me like tickets, and I've seen her every single time that she's in Boston, because they'll be like, oh, we know that you're very South African and you really like your country and stuff. And like seeing how people react to my love for South Africa, like phenomenal. Like that means that I live and I breathe being South African. Like you know what? I always say this, and it shouldn't have taken me like leaving the country to appreciate my country. I've always loved South Africa, but we really have it very good, and I think that's why I'm so passionate about trying to improve things while we can. Because there's a lot of things like healthcare. Like when I found out that ARVs and diabetes medicine in the US, like HIV and diabetes medicine in the US is not free.
Sure.
I was like,
we
okay.
are fortunate.
Yeah, there's things we need to improve for sure. But like,
in those aspects, we're winning.
We are winning. Like,
how do you then split your time between the two countries? You know, having to come back home, having to go back for school. How do you manage that?
So, last year I was at home from May to June because I had an internship in Manhattan, so I had to go back to the US. But I think from now on, I just envision it being me at home, like for December. I did come home for December, definitely. I did not want to be in the snow. I once spent a December in the snow. It was so bad. The sun sets at like 3:30 p.m. I just can't do it. I can't. But December, obviously, I'm going to be in South Africa. But then May to June, South Africa definitely. And then usually I'd like to do an internship in the US. But this year I opted to do an internship or a project in South Africa or in Africa as a whole because my school was funding it, and I told them about the project that I want to do, and they were like, okay, cool, here's a little bit of money, fly home. I'm going to Accra, I'm going to I might go to Lagos, I'm definitely going to Nairobi. I just need to figure out the logistics of Lagos, being that like a lot of my Lagosian Nigerian friends say that you're too much of a suburban girl, you're not vakr enough for Lagos, so you need to like plan everything meticulously before you go. But I'm really, really excited to be traveling the African continent.
Girl, I'm excited for you.
Yeah, I love Africa.
Yeah, shout out and thank you for representing us well.
Thank you.
So let's get into content creation, right? Where that journey began for you, and were you intentional about the type of content you wanted to put out?
Was I intentional? I don't think I was very intentional. I just spoke my mind, and I think politics are always on my mind. Now I'm becoming more intentional because when I came back in December, I think it became more obvious that I'd built a platform. I didn't think that I built a platform. I just remember being in Cape Town, and this girl stopped, like she screamed in the middle of VNA, and she was like, Amahle! And I was like, yo, can't be me. I'm in Xhosa land. There's many other Amatles. So I keep walking, and she taps me on my shoulder. I was like, oh my God. I'm like a celebrity. No, I'm not. But then that's when I realized that I had a platform, and I think even other people telling me that, like, I was at this Harvard business conference with one of my friends, and like someone was like, oh, are you a panelist here? Like, I know your TikToks. And I was like, at Harvard? I mean, my friends are at Harvard. I know, they know me, but when they know me, it's like, okay, we're Amahle's friends. Yeah. But then when I was recognized by one of the panelists, I was like, oh my word, this is kind of crazy. Now I need to be more mindful with what I'm putting out. I need to be fact-checking when I make videos, even when it comes to my brand and stuff. I need to ensure that, like, I keep true to myself and I stay true to myself, because one thing about South Africans, people can detect like this when you're no longer staying true to yourself. Yeah. And so now I'm becoming more intentional. But back like 2 years ago, a year ago, I was just a little baby on the screen being like, guys, let's change our world.
But now you're just saying it boldly and you're coming out there confident. I like that. What would you say pushed you to create content around your activism?
So I always made content about my activism, but on WhatsApp statuses. Then from WhatsApp statuses, I was like, hey, these people don't deserve me for free. Then I went to Instagram because I had a larger following on Instagram, and also because I'd started writing policies for the city of Joburg when I was like 14, like editing policies. And there's this thing called the South African Institute of International Affairs. If you want to get into like policy making for climate stuff, for gender stuff, definitely look into that, Black child. Definitely look into that, because they offer a lot of like mentorship and stuff, which was really, really cool. And because I was always reposting their stuff, I was like, oh, okay, I might as well just post my opinions and stuff here on Instagram. Then I started TikTok because I wanted to just talk about my culture shock of being in the US, and then hopefully other international students can find me and we can become chomies and stuff. But then like now speaking about the US and my culture shocks became speaking about politics, and like that's how I started to grow my platform. I hope I answered your question.
You did. So I want to find out from you how you think you were received, right? Because obviously, with content creation, it's very generic. It's your beauty, your food vlogs, your vlogs as a whole. And then you came and you took out this particular content of activism, politics. You know, how were you received?
I don't think I was received well. I think being a black child, being a girl, being young, in a world where you need to be like where political spaces are like dominated by older people, number one, and then also being very like confident. I think that threatens a lot of people. Like a lot of people expect you to dim your light and say, "Oh no, okay, I understand where you're coming from." Sometimes I don't want to understand where you come from. I don't want to hear you, and that's okay. But like sometimes I do want to hear you, and I think that like with the whole English feedback that I was getting, that's me hearing and understanding people.
Sure.
But I wasn't received very well because I remember there was a time when people would swear at me. I still get a lot of death threats, which is why I don't read Instagram DMs.
Sure.
And I just found out that there's good DMs that come through Instagram now. I need to go back to the space of looking at Instagram DMs. But then, you know, when I tell my family that I want to stop, then they would tell me that, oh, you know, so-and-so saw your TikTok and they were really inspired by it and stuff. And so hearing that good feedback really kept me going. It really, like the good comments, they really, really do keep me going, because before the good comments, it was just really bad comments.
Of
like,
course.
yeah.
I'm sorry you have to go through that. I feel like it's so crazy how people are entitled. Like, this is my life and this is my platform. And if you don't like me, unfollow me, block me, do whatever
Exactly.
it is that brings
Like,
you
I'm not
peace.
forcing you. It's not by fire, by force. I'm not
Exactly.
tuya motlhong ya hao, so what's up?
And it's wild that people go to extents of threatening you to kill you. Guys, you need to chill, okay? You need to relax a bit. But then how do you balance being like an international student, a content creator, and obviously your activism work? Like, how do you find time to balance all of that out? Or rather, how do you divide your time?
How do I divide my time? So I'm very, like, I monitor my screen time very strictly. So, like,
I need that. Girl,
yeah,
I need that.
Yeah, so even because my screen time every day is restricted to 1 hour.
Okay.
And then if I go over the hour, like, I will tally up the amount of times that I've added 15 minutes, so that like by the end of the day, at least I've only it only adds up to maybe 4 hours of screen time, because then TikTok takes up too much time, or like I'm trying to be perfectionist, or I'm trying to keep up with everything, and then that like takes away from my academics. And my academics was part of the reason why I started TikTok, like reading, right? And I think balancing that, firstly, therapy, asking for feedback from other people, seeking mentorship. This is not a journey that I'm walking on my own. I'm not on my own. I spoke about my family. In the US, I have advisors for my courses, for my majors, and they also help me like map out a schedule. Even using AI, like sometimes I'm so lazy, I'm too lazy to map out a schedule for myself. So like if you go on ChatGPT and you say, this is what I have to do for the next week, like for every hour of the next week, map out a schedule for me. It will do it for you. And then I just put everything into my calendar. I love my Google Calendar, my iCloud calendar. Yeah, I even schedule my breaks in there now. When I have to watch The Ultimatum South Africa, it is scheduled in, best believe. Yeah, like schedules and consulting with other people.
Yeah, and it helps you like be organized.
Yeah.
And it helps with like navigating life, because at least now you know that you have a deadline. Like everything needs to end, and you need to stick to that. I like that. I need that screen time discipline for real.
And I operate on African time. And so I was like, no, like time is not a big deal. Time
time is a big deal.
The opportunities I've missed out on because I said time is not a big deal. Sana, I'm still mourning today. Kiri, West Park Cemetery has never seen this amount of mourning in its life. But I have learned from my excuse you.
Oh my word.
Sorry. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
I make the weirdest analogies.
Girl, it's okay. So, I wanted to find out from you, right, going back to content creation and TikTok. So another TikToker said something along the lines of you having to simplify your English in order for you to connect with the Black community or the Black audience. How did that make you feel?
It I think it was something I already knew, right? When I mentioned that I used to go to church, I mean, I still love gospel, I still love joy celebration. I'm a huge fan of you. If you have free tickets, please hook me up, hook me up. But I really, really used to like to go to church when I was little, and it grounded me in like learning about other people. But one thing my mom always used to say when I was serving, when I would like say speeches for intercession or something, and I would practice in front of her, she'd be like, "You must remember you're in Soweto, you're going to Soweto, ne? The English that you're speaking now is the English that you'd be speaking at assembly in a predominantly white school.
Yeah.
So remember, just calm down." And people will not be listening to what you're saying about God. They'll be listening to what your accent is saying. They'll be listening to your diction. They'll be like babazar in your English more than they're paying attention to the message of God in your in your voice, in your speech, right? And I think that could easily be applied to what was happening on TikTok, or the feedback that I was getting with people being like, you know what, we can hear that. Yeah, that you know your stuff, but we don't understand what you're saying. Like, come to us with this knowledge, slowly, even if you don't have to speak vernac all the time, just, simplify your language. And because I heard it before, it wasn't hard to implement the feedback, but the reason why it took me so long to implement that feedback was because when other people gave that feedback, they'd be shouting or they'd be swearing.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
I do not, me and shouting, me and swearing, I like goes through
Shut
one ear,
down.
and I was like,
Yeah.
shut down, because
Yeah.
I was never shouted at when I was a child. I was spoken to properly, right? That's how I receive feedback. And when I forgot his name, Olile, the content creator that gave me that feedback, when he said it, he came very humbly, very well, and that's how I'm used to receiving feedback. And it was heartbreaking, honestly,
course.
because my content is for Black people. It's not for white people. It's not for academics. Especially because like academics is exclusive to people who can
Yeah.
afford those
Yeah.
spaces. Especially with what we've been seeing with NASFAS and all that.
Yeah.
Like, we know that Black people have been left out of those spaces, and for my vocab to be somewhat of a barrier,
Yeah.
that did hurt. But now I can't be sulking and be like, wah, wah, like, I'm hurt. I have to move on. I have to
course.
now train myself to
Yeah.
speak a specific way, to simplify. Because a lot of people also assume that I was speaking that way because I wanted to show Guti I'm intelligent. I
You're
don't have to show
smart.
that. I don't have to show that. You know that, right? Even if I speak simple English, people can hear
Yeah.
that. Hakibua soto saka se robekileng, hakepota. You can hear that I'm
Exactly.
intelligent.
Yeah.
I don't have to prove that to anyone. But I think the true test of my intelligence now is how I simplify my content and
Yeah.
how I tailor it to the people that need to hear it.
Of course. And how's that
Yeah.
for you now? How's the transition going now, with you having to remind yourself that, oh, I need to speak to you guys in a language or in a manner that you understand better, instead of using like big English words? How's the transition for you at the moment?
The transition is a bit difficult because I don't know what big English words are. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, no, I
Because it's
hear
how I
you.
speak every day. It's how I speak to my family. It's how I speak to my friends. And so for me, it's also seeking feedback from other people. Sometimes I'll Google synonyms. I would be like, oh,
Okay.
what's a synonym for this? And then I'll simplify what I'm saying. And then sometimes I'll be like, okay, if I had to explain this to my younger sister, would she understand what I'm
understand?
saying?
Yeah.
Or would I, how do I explain like I'm explaining to a 5-year-old?
Absolutely.
Not that I'm infantilizing people, but also people have different levels of understanding English. English is only the 6th most spoken first language in South Africa.
Yeah.
Wabon, other people were reminding me that, Tina Sensifal, when you did first language, we did first additional language English. So just understanding that it takes time, it's
It
taking
does.
time.
Yeah.
But I think I'm managing fine.
For sure. And
Yeah.
you'll be fine.
Yeah.
You'll find your feet, you know. So moving on to the US again, coming back to that, there's a lot of idea around the fact that Americans don't know a lot of things about the rest of the world, in general. How has your experience been with that? Or have you seen that actually in interacting with American people?
It's not a lie. I don't know. I was trying to euphemize it. No, they don't know anything.
Yeah.
But firstly, it's because of the education system. Number one, it's not even that. oh, no, the education system was supposed to teach them everything. That's not what we're saying. I think the American education system doesn't teach Americans to be curious. And it's because curiosity is, it's a barrier to capitalism.
Yeah.
Like, curiosity will lead them to question certain things about their society, certain things that are very important to the functioning of like America's economy. And when Americans discover certain things, or when they come together to challenge certain things, that's the end of America as an empire. I don't. That's how one of my American friends explained it to me, because she's half African American, half Ghanaian.
Okay.
And I was asking her, like, why don't you guys know anything? Like, you guys, what do you guys call yourself? The leader of the free world. It's not giving free, you know? And she explained it to me. She was like, the way the education system was designed, it was designed to put us in careers. It was designed to generate money for the economy.
Yeah.
It was designed to generate money for us, but it wasn't such that we should challenge America as an institution. And I think one of the biggest fears is that people know too much. And I think maybe that's why they want to ban TikTok.
Yeah.
Which will get in the way of me talking to people.
I was about to literally, that was my next point. Like with TikTok, with the talks about TikTok being banned in US. What's your plan for your content there? Like, what are you going to do? Do you have a backup plan?
So, okay, firstly, I think they gave TikTok, I don't know if they gave TikTok like 6 months or a year to figure out their situation.
Okay.
But for the next year, I won't be in the US. I'll be studying abroad. So while I'm studying abroad, I think I'm going to try and build a base outside of the US, because most of my base is just in South Africa. My followers are in South Africa and in the United States. And also to find a way to use like Instagram Reels, YouTube, a podcast. That's why I've branched into these different forms of like media, so that I can reach people, because I think TikTok was my number one reach, and it's the easiest reach, because it's like, there's such a community there. There's so many mutual friends from the US that I've met through TikTok. Like whenever I have to visit Yale, I know someone who's at Yale Law. When I'm visiting Columbia, I know someone who's at Columbia because of TikTok and the people that I've met in these spaces. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Exactly.
But I that bridge will be crossed in my last year. So I think, I don't know,
Yeah.
But I think when it starts, I'll be in Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay.
I'll be in the Caribbean. So
yeah. Okay. So over and above that, how do you feel social media and content creation shapes us as South Africans?
I love my people.
Yeah.
But I be reading the comments on other people's posts, and I'm like, that there's that TikTok sound that's like, black people, and I'm like, yeah, black South Africans. But I think, firstly, and I think now it's shaping this negative image. I don't care about how the rest of the world sees us. Like, the way they see us is the way they see us, right? So we're black at the end of the day. We're African. People are always going to see us in a negative light. But even within ourselves, like the negativity that people have bred on TikTok and on Twitter, I think now that it actually will affect voting. It will affect so many things about our society. The way that we communicate, the way that we come to agreement, the way that we try to find a common vision for the country. If we're so divided on social media and we do not want to listen to each other, then how are we going to build a country together? And I don't know if you saw that one Netflix documentary, it was like 3 years ago, about like the power of social media and how, social media is now being used to undermine democracies, and how it's being used to manipulate voting and things like that. Yeah. And we're seeing that live right and now, in action right now in 3. Like sometimes I read a post or I see a video and I'm like, this sounds like it was sponsored by a political party for a specific motive. And now when we are not being transparent, we're not talking to each other, then we're breaking down the democracy that we've been so busy building up. And when we remember the foundation of this democracy, yes, it is flawed. Yes, it is flawed. And but the very beginning of it was about building transparency. That's why we had the amnesty, what trial cases. What's the TRC, Truth and Reconciliation Commission, right? Where we were speaking to each other, where we were like, okay, cool, what is going on in the country? And I think after those discussions, those negotiations weren't always dealt with properly.
Yeah.
But the discussions were important, like being transparent with each other, listening to each other was important. But now it's just about everyone's opinion and not remembering why we are here, not keeping in mind why we fought for this country the way that we did.
Would you say then that's what kind of influenced you to make content around politics? And in that way, obviously, you knew that it would get to young people, right? And they would get to understand it a bit better, because I know a lot of young people don't understand politics, and it's always so bizarre, you know. So would you say that's like part of your motive, or what motivated you to do content around politics?
Do you know, I'll answer the question just now.
Okay.
I just wanted to say, I don't think we don't understand politics. I think we understand politics. It's just that we don't use political language every day. For example, I made a video about how white people will just drive like anyhow on the road when they see a black person, right?
Yeah.
And then like just the politics of like taking up space and racism on South African roads, right? And people are like, oh, you're making this a very political issue. It's not about race. It's just about that specific person being disrespectful. But then when you look at a black driver's reaction to a white driver overtaking them or taking their parking, it's going to be like, they always say, oh, like now you know that you're processing that, you know, within whiteness, there's this idea that, oh, okay, these people think that they're superior to me, such that they can take up this parking space, right?
Yeah.
Even that is a politic. Or even, that was a very far-fetched example. Let me go back to NSFAS. For example, with NSFAS, when people take out NSFAS loans and then they apply with their granny's documents instead of their mother's documents because their mothers earn over the threshold, you understand the politics of the country. You understand why, in some way, you have to go around the corner to use your granny's thingies. Because you understand, Uguti, I am part of the missing middle income class. My mom earns more, but she's a single mother who has all these expenses, You understand those politics. You're just not using the words that we use as in political science. Because even for someone who's looking from the outside, they might be like, oh, it's corrupt to use your grandmother's documents. But then now in politics, we would use the argument of, oh, is it a deontological ethic or a consequentialist ethic, right? So now when you're using that language, now it sounds like, political.
Wow. Yeah, like, oh, that's foreign. Hey, what do you mean? What do you mean,
you see? Like that. But then now when people or like my sister will just be like, and then like, why ban lanako di shopong tsena ha ke tsamaya when I'm wearing a weave? I mean, when I have my afro out, but then when I'm wearing a weave, they don't follow me around go di shopong. You understand the politics of your hair, but you're just not saying it. But anyway, back to your question. You were asking me about like why I felt the need
your content around
like youth politics, and why I feel the need to like raise awareness for the youth. I think, as Whitney Houston said, she said, I believe the children are our future.
I almost said, I believe I can fly.
Like,
come back. I was about to join, but I was like, not fly.
And she said, teach them well and let them lead the way. Let us lead the way. Let us lead the way. I think like one of my favorite things to study in Black history is the Black Panther Party. And they were very, very controversial. And one of their most controversial movements was when they fed black children. That was very controversial for the FBI. The FBI was like, this guy named J. Edgar Hoover, he was like, oh my God, why are you feeding black children? This is the end of like white supremacy in America. And we always study that. And I'm like, how is one of the most radical things to do just feeding black children? Now, imagine you're feeding the stomach. That's radical. Now, when you feed the mind, dude.
Sure.
Dude, like...
Firstly, I want to say, I'm learning a whole lot of things talking to you today.
Oh, really?
Like, I'm just like, I'm today years old when I find out like certain things. And that is very cool, man. I think it's very nice to see someone as young as you, so well educated, so well informed regarding politics, you know. And man, I love that. I admire that about you. I think you're doing an amazing work with your content. And you know what? The people that can understand it and people that love it will receive it well. And I think at this point, it really doesn't matter.
Thank you for saying that, because I'm listening to my words now and I'm like, am I too controversial for Levi's? Am I too controversial?
Should we bend this episode? Should we let her go home?
If you guys email me and you're like, you know what, Amahle, thank you for your time. We're not doing this. I'll be like, you know what, granted. Like, I understand. But thank you so much for saying that. I really needed to hear that because coming from the airport yesterday, still very jet lagged, by the way. My mom was telling me that, like, she was just telling me, asking me about what I want to do with my platform. And I don't know, because, like, at some point I couldn't deal with, like, the hate that I was getting. Like, it was a lot. It was a lot, like getting death threats. There was a time when someone accused me of being a part of the CIA. Verizon almost confiscated my iPhone because I couldn't pay them. Like, they're like, the other time they said the Illuminati, yeah, I mean, like, you know you're real when you start getting Illuminati allegations. And I think when I saw that, I like immediately deactivated, because like one thing about me, because of like my religious background, because of growing up in the church, growing up within a very spiritual household, I think like I've just been a person that like is very grounded and disciplined in my beliefs. I have learned to stick by my beliefs, and I'd rather deactivate than to change my beliefs. So yeah, like thank you to the church that raised me, and and everything that I learned from there. Thank you to my family. Thank you to the many communities that I have. Ubuntu, as the Americans like to, Amandala, as my American friends like to say.
Yeah, but don't lose heart. You know, you have amazing people, an amazing community that supports you. I mean, you have your Dan coders that are also doing the same thing, your Z2s. So you're not alone. Like I said, the people that will receive it, right? Cool. We have to wrap up the interview fast. But before I let you go, I just want to find out from you, you know, like navigating the world as a 21-year-old. Well, 20.
Quarter to
21, right? And just having so many ideas about the world, you know. How would you say your activism has kind of just like impacted your ability to just exist as a young person?
I don't think I'm young anymore. I think I can't do certain things because of like politics. Like, you know, when my friends want to do, well, not my friends, when my peers want to do certain things and like those things are a part of a boycott, I can't do that. Even when it comes to learning at MIT, there's an encampment for what's happening in the Middle East. And because of my conscience and like not being able to, like understanding what is happening there, right? I understand what's happening there. I can't just be ignorant. I can't just be like, whoop-de-doo, like I just live in this world, I'm just a girl, because I'm not just a girl, you know? And I think I even made a tweet, I tweeted, like sometimes I just wish I didn't have all this knowledge, because truly ignorance is bliss. Guys, not knowing there's certain books where I just haven't finished them because I'm like, yo, if I finish this book. But I really, like, it has hindered my childhood, but I've found other people who have shared that hindrance with me. So thank you to them, thank God for them. But yeah.
Amahle, it's been a pleasure having you here.
So much.
Before I let you go, for real now, I have a question for you. This one is like a closing question, right? So this question says, if you could have dinner with any 3 past or present political figures, who would they be and why?
Okay, I would have dinner with Nelson Mandela. No, not because he's on my banknotes, but I want to ask him, like what position was he put in as a black man at the time? Like, how tired was he after, you know, being in prison for that long? Because obviously there's the conversation that we always have about Mandela, like, did he sell out? Did he not sell out? What does he think of himself? Number 2, the other conversation I'd like to have is with, she's one of the first black female journalists in South Africa. I just forgot her name. It was at the tip of my tongue. But if you guys Google first black female journalist in South Africa, she has a Xhosa name. You'll find her. Very inspirational. She lived in London for some time, and her dad founded the first black newspaper in South Africa, which was a very, very big part of like writing and empowerment. And as a writer, someone that likes to document things, really, really love that. And then the third political figure I would like to interview is Thomas Sankara, because he was assassinated 4 years after his presidency, and he really did try to lift a lot of things from, from like Burkina Faso's impoverishment. And a lot of people look at his leadership and are like, you know what, like that was a model for African leadership, because he spoke about feminism. He was one of the first first presidents in the world, period, to acknowledge the HIV epidemic and like being a visionary in that way. And like, sorry, Mandela, no. Frantz Fanon, I have some words for you, sir. Yes. I'll just go there. But Frantz Fanon, yes, you, sir. Like, you give me a headache. Do we really need to decolonize violently? Like, I don't like violence. Look how dainty my hands are. I can't hold a gun. Like, no, too fancy for all that. But
that's an interesting list. But nonetheless, thank you so much for pulling through today.
Thank you so much.
And just to close it off, really, I do learn a lot from you, because I'm not like politically inclined or like, that political girl. But I enjoy your content.
Thank you.
Even in your most expensive English, I think you're doing an amazing you're doing an amazing job. So do not feel like you need to give up, or do not feel like you need to cater your content for certain people.
Thank
because
you so much.
I promise, don't do that. Keep on doing what you're doing, because you're doing amazing and you're thriving. And I cannot wait to see you thrive even further. Go raise the South African flag high. Super excited for you and in your journey. All the best. God bless. And we hope to see you again, I don't know, in the hype street somewhere. We will shangana.
Yeah, please call me.
Where do people find you?
I'm here for the next 4 months. So if you guys have anything, even job shadowing, squeeze me in.
Okay. Where do people find you on social media?
So everywhere: Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Amahle Gebane. So just search Amahle Gebane. And then I have a podcast called Discussions. Really working on that. Like, I really love my voice. I think I have a really good voice.
I think
like
you
a
have
good
an incredible
radio
voice. I like it.
And my next episode is about Haitian revolution and just learning about the Caribbean as a Black South African with one of my friends who's Haitian American. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
There you have it, Hype family. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to give us a huge thumbs up and comment down below and let us know who you would like to see next. But until then, I am done, and I have been your amazing host. I go by the name of Nomi the Boss Chick, and I will see you in the next episode. And no, I won't say anything about if it's hype, believe the hype. See you on the next one.
Do you know, I actually had a conversation with someone the other day, and they asked me how that came about, and I was like, I actually used to rap, and people are so shocked by that. No, don't get ideas. Everyone in the room, their eyes are opening. It's not happening.
This is news to me.
I know.
Okay, so we're going to talk about that. Let's get into that, right?
Okay.
When did you discover that actually I can rap?